first question to Deb and Larry is that we hear a lot about the new risks emerging and the existing risks gaining prominence from a compliance perspective during these times. And due to these, we've seen a significant rise in email alerts, transactional alerts, increased scrutiny of client and third-party due diligence, and post-trade alerts. My question to you is, operationally, what has changed since Feb onwards in the last 3 months, and when the team started working from home? What changes have you seen, and what are the potential impacts and heightened risks that you're seeing? Deb, do you want to go first?
Sure, happy to. I guess from a compliance perspective, I think the new work from home environment has had some positives and some negatives. Certainly the positive column is all the things that you would have thought, right? People are, happy to be able to have a little bit more flexibility. And certainly given the number of individuals who are responsible for families and have other responsibilities, having that flexibility has been good. But I guess in the negative column, while we talked about some of these other areas, I think the overarching thing that I'm starting to notice is that we are missing out on what I'll call tangential learning or connections, where if you're in the office and you have an employee who is dealing with a particular situation, they need some assistance, or they're not really sure what to do, you oftentimes will get someone that will pop by your office, or you can stick your head out and say, hey, I'm hearing a certain situation, do you need any assistance? Or they may even more frequently touch base and say, hey, before I do X or Y, can I ask you a few questions? We're missing out on that. And while I appreciate that there are a whole lot of instant messages that happen throughout the day as a result, there is nothing like sort of running into somebody in the hallway to get them to say, hey, now that I'm seeing you, I'm reminded of a particular issue I need to run by you. And so, everyone is very focused on what they need to do every day. And I think they're so focused that sometimes they can miss the additional step of checking in with a colleague or validating that what they're about to do or have done is the right thing. And so those kinds of situations, as relaxed as people have become at home, which I think can be a good thing, it can actually cut both ways.
Yeah, Deb, I think I'll echo that definitely. And I think to add to that also is you miss the kind of positive influence senior leadership can have on staff by being present, following the lead. If you got a team comprising of ethical, good senior leaders, that rubs off, and you're going to lose that in an environment like this. But to add, so that poll was interesting. As I saw, employee compliance risk was number one. And I'll share with you, I chose all of the above. But I think employee compliance risk is number one. I think you guys, we as a group are smarter than me as an individual because it is the highest risk. You think about, I look at our firm, until I was gone a few weeks ago, our code of ethics, personal account dealing, has doubled. What does that mean? Well, that means that people are, one of the data analytics I used to provide our senior department heads is all the personal account trading everyone on their team did throughout the quarter. And they would get volume numbers, they would get security types, and then eventually we evolved to give them time of day trading. So are they working on their portfolio or are they working on client portfolios? Well, now they're trading, now the workday's blended. So throughout the course of a day, someone may be working on their own portfolio or clients. Marketing and social media increased precipitously. The risk of people making phone calls off of recorded lines is increased precipitously. All the record retention, record destruction, shredding confidential documents, all this stuff is increased precipitously because it's all happening off-site. It's not happening on-site. So in the end of the day, we're really dependent on the compliance, and I'm not going to say actually compliance, the ethics of employees. And that to me what has represented, what it has shined a light on for me is something that has just been a paradigm shift in my philosophy as a compliance officer for the last 15 years, and that is this. I started it always saying, build a culture of compliance. We need to have a culture of compliance. And what that meant, I never knew. How you proved it, I was never able to do until we started getting proof of showing, 100% affirmations of, this and that. Well, then we kind of adapted and became a kind of a risk awareness culture. Let's be a culture of people that are risk managers, first line, second line. And now companies have to really focus on building a culture of ethics, because you got to speak to the people. You can go ahead. There's a lot of companies that have a culture of compliance that meet the 7 guidelines of the federal sentencing guidelines, the seven federal sentencing guidelines for a good compliance program, that are still committing fraud. Why is that happening? Why are these companies that are passing their annual reviews and their SOC 1s with flying colors committing fraud and having issues? So what this has done for me, this has been a revelation, is that it not only highlights the seriousness operationally of risks outside, cybersecurity, hackers, phishing exercises, but it also, to me, has elevated risks within, and what can happen within an organization when you let everyone go and work on their own, at home, with their own equipment and their own devices. And, not to get too into the weeds on it, because we got a lot to cover today, but what that does is it highlights the importance of senior leadership and supervisory responsibility. And I think it requires organizations, compliance teams, to even further deeply embed yourself in the organization at the senior leadership level, while remaining independent, so that you can hold those senior leaders accountable themselves. So I think as we sit here now, I think, 4 months ago, I wouldn't have preached this on a webinar, because it wouldn't have been top of mind, but now it is.